What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Voices from the Stands, not Dingo Talk. I am the host of Dingo Talk. Matt is not with us, so bear with me as I try to navigate this whole trying to make sure that we don't have six guys on a screen at one time. Now we are going to start in with Josh and Coop, who are going to tell us about Whitewater versus Mary Hardin Baylor. Obviously, they represent both teams in a way. But first, Josh, tell us a little bit about what happened this week with Whitewater, and then Coop will jump into you after that.
Yeah, Warhawks went down to Oak Lawn, Illinois, southwest of Chicago, took out St. Xavier, NAIA opponent. They had lost previously the week before to the number 6 ranked team. I don't know what they are this week after they beat St. Xavier. I think it was 31-3, something like that, maybe 30-3. But Cougars got the lead 3-0 and then gave up the rest of the points to the opponent. So, you're cautiously optimistic, as Crew and I had been talking about, just before we came on here about the game down in Belton. And I thought, right away you get the 2 deep right from St. Xavier, and you see 2 quarterbacks play from last week, and they trot out the opening offense, and it's a different number than either of those 2 guys. So it's like, all right, they're already on their 3rd quarterback. He throws a desperation pass late in the game and just gets absolutely blasted by one of our better defensive ends. He goes out, he's icing his back, and then they bring in a guy who's starting at receiver. So he hadn't thrown a ball in I don't know how long. Maybe he's got some experience with that back in high school, and he's just their emergency guy. So it was a little bit deceiving if people want to watch, a lot of that second half, 3rd and 4th quarters. But Whitewater's defense still played very, very well. It was a 37-0 shutout in favor of Whitewater. Way different ball game than the game against Carleton College, in my opinion. Warhawks put up over 400 yards rushing in that game against the Knights. Here against the Cougars, running the ball was a little bit hard, which I thought it was going to be a little bit easy because they had a freshman and a couple of sophomores on that defensive line, and I thought Whitewater's offensive line with 3 seniors returning would manhandle them. Right. And we found it very, very difficult to run between the tackles. There was some stuff to the outside. And again, the quarterback, Justin Klinkner, was able to kind of keep things off balance. But the main running backs didn't have a whole lot of running room. I think there was only about a little over 100 yards total. But Klinkner through the air was really effective. I think he was 20 for 25, somewhere in that area, over 250 yards passing, a couple of touchdowns, 3 of them, a couple of different receivers as well. So very, very effective through the air. So I like that we can show that if we can't do one thing, we can lean on the other. And I think that's going to be very challenging for opposing defenses. And I was just telling Crew as well, I've talked to many coaches at many different levels that have coached, and no matter the quality of the opponent, to shut out anybody, especially in college football, is going to be tough right now. Right. Again, you can take what you want to from the quarterback situation, but that still means you got to put up points and you got to shut out whatever they're doing. So cautiously optimistic. Hope. I think the main goal for us, and I'll probably reiterate this when we're talking about the game down in Belton, I think the main goal before the bye week and then the start of the WIAC season, which starts against La Crosse, is to go down there, give it our best effort, don't get anybody hurt, so that everybody's healthy for the stretch conference run, and see if the Warhawks can make a little noise.
Now, Crew, before you jump in, I want to ask you, do you think that does it benefit UMHB having a week off and coming into this kind of, everybody gets a chance to, the first week got the butterflies and the opening of a season out of the way. You get a nice week to go kind of prepare for a Whitewater coming down to your place. Does that help in the preparations? And is that an advantage for UMHB?
Yeah, I mean, it's really early in the season. Typically, I would say, maybe the extra prep time is good, but in this case, I would actually say we got a little banged up. We've got a couple of guys, really important players, probably the best defensive back on our team, Demarion Morris, who's been recovering from a knee injury. He's like right on the edge. I think he suited up last game, didn't actually play. So that extra week might give him a chance to be on the field. One of our better defensive linemen, who was really, honestly, was probably our best edge rusher last week in our season opener. He's a junior college transfer. He got banged up and still played in the second half, but was clearly hampered. So both of those guys having just a chance to get those guys healthy, I would say is a bigger deal, especially against a team with, so much size like Whitewater. So I think it's obviously important. This is a game that Whitewater will have had circled the entire offseason because of the result last year up there in Wisconsin. So, if anything, at least extra time to kind of focus on the Warhawks and just prepare for one team, and you get the extra time to prepare for one opponent, an opponent that wants to beat you very badly.
When and for this is for both of you to kind of open the conversation. 5 game. This will be the 5th game since 2021, right? 21, 22, 23, 24, and now 25. Both teams come in. It's 2-2. Are we calling this the rubber match? Is this the grudge match to see which team in purple is the team in purple? Coop, I understand you have an issue with the team up there in Ohio that also wears purple. We don't have to acknowledge them. I won't give them their names, but for this purple matchup, is that the round 5? What are we expecting?
Yeah, I mean it's actually if you look at it, it's 3-3 in our last 6 dating back to 2018. So super rubber match, I guess you could call it, right? It's definitely in recent history has been extremely competitive. Before that, we had never gotten over the hump with Whitewater. So dating back to the mid 2000s, I think it took us 5 times to get over that Warhawk hump, right? So, but recent history, 3-3. Honestly, those guys are probably the only country in Division 3, or the only team in the entire country in Division 3 that we have a losing record against. We don't have a losing record against Mount Union. We don't have a losing record against really any of the other traditional powers. Whitewater's really the only one. So it's a big deal going up there last year and getting a win was a big win, just because it hasn't been done very often, right? So, yeah, it's a huge game for both programs, and I'll pass it on here in a second, but I honestly think this is probably closer to a top 5 game than a 16 versus 6 game. I watched Whitewater's first half of their game against St. Xavier and thought they were much improved. I think they've actually got a pretty good quarterback now. Defense looked good, so I think this is probably a bigger game than even it looks like on paper.
Josh?
Yeah, a lot of ugly memories about last year, them coming up and, first pass, pick six, second pass, pick six, third pass, pick. And it was not pretty. And save for 2 blocked punts returned for touchdowns. I thought they wiped the floor with us last year regardless. And thinking about that without those 2 special teams plays, I don't even want to remember that result. But the 2 years ago down in Belton, we came away with a 1-score victory without the starting quarterback, Alec Ogden. He's on the staff now, coaching receivers. So he's got big game experience. And I love that he's been added to the staff. So he knows about this rivalry. And then I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Coop, that 3 years ago, our first year broadcasting, I think it was the second game of the season, the Crusaders came in ranked number 1, and we scored a touchdown, I think, in the last minute on a pass to the back corner of the end zone, and that was a huge upset. So, and that was a year we started off with a winnable game at St. John's. We lost, and then we rebounded with a great win over Mary Hardin Baylor. So, I think more than anything, it's not going to be viewed as a rubber match. I think the only sole focus is going to be on last year and the underperformance and the underachieving that this team had. And I think they're going to come in with a pretty big chip on their shoulder. And I remember how jacked up UMHB was coming to Perkins Stadium last year, and I think that's the way Whitewater is going to come in down to Belton on Saturday.
Now I got to ask, because we are also a tailgate type show. Are you two planning on, is it a beer before the game? Is it a beer after the game? What's the protocol here? Do we have to be not friends until end of kickoff? Are we friends?
No.
Like, just so the community maybe understands how friendships and the community works. We're all friends regardless, correct?
I put out the olive branch very early, and I asked if he wanted to come on our pregame show, which we run an hour before kickoff. And he's going to come on and do a segment. He's got his media credential all lined up. So he's going to talk about the Crusaders, give us some inside info. And then he returned the favor by inviting my broadcast crew. We're staying with the team in North Round Rock and then going to travel the 40 minutes to Belton. And he invited us to a nice place that is owned by his family for breakfast. So we're going to have breakfast before we go to the stadium with his people. He's going to come up and hang with us on the pregame. And I hope to see him after the game at some point. And maybe if he uses his press credential, have the best halftime food available that I have ever had in 3 years of doing broadcasting, because that at Crusader Stadium is next level barbecue brisket, all the fixins. It is phenomenal. And it's just perfect for a bunch of fat guys from Wisconsin coming down to Texas. That is what we need.
Coop?
Yeah, no, you're definitely right about the barbecue. We've got a lot of it down here, and we're picky about it too. So I think that's usually Miller's. I think that's typically Miller's barbecue, which is really good stuff. So you're right. It is good. Shuffs is okay too, but we kind of have a preference for Miller's. But yeah, there's never, for me, even as a little kid, going to playoff games and seeing the Whitewater fans, walking up to the stadium, talking to them in the ticket booth line and everything. There's never been bad blood. It's always been respectful, and typically they've been really good people. They're football people, so like we get along with football people. Not so much with the folks in Alliance, but definitely have never had an issue with anybody from Whitewater.
All right, you guys stick around with me. We got to get through Tony and David, and David's going to be a little long-winded because it's North Central's first game of the year. And then Mikey and I will go in, and then we'll bring you guys back. And so hang out for a little bit, talk, maybe get some more plans for breakfast there, Josh, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. Again, as I pointed out in the first segment, or at the beginning of this episode, I am not Matt. I don't necessarily have the technological and editing abilities that he has. He's going to make us all look really great when this is all done, but we're doing this through Zoom. Here's our first segment of the night. It's Moose Hogan and the North Central faithful, being David Soliday. David, I'm going to make you wait. You know how I do this. I'm going to make you wait. Moose Hogan, we're 2-0. Let's hear about it. Big dominating performance against RPI. Now we roll into another battle against Hobart. What are we thinking there, David? Or Tony? Sorry, David. See what I did there? Tony, tell us what you're thinking about the Empire 8 and Utica specifically.
I mean, listen, you got to believe, right? The Believe Bowl. They really showed a dominant performance, right? They played a complete game, right? It was a complete offensive and defensive game. Over 500 yards of offense, 385 in the air. They got the running game going at 134 yards. I thought what was good also, 30 first downs. They went 10 for 11 on third down. That's how you win games. You know what I mean? Penalties were still a little bit high. They got 6 penalties for 80 yards. I know coaches want less than that, but they showed a complete game. That offensive line has 4 new starters, and they're gelling together like they've been playing for years, which I think it's a big deal. Tyler, Zalkowski, the quarterback, is lighting it up again. Blessings to him. But I would be remiss if I didn't give a quick shout out to Brett Fuller, number 7, who came in this year as a senior, did not get the starting job at quarterback. And let me tell you something, this kid is what a Utica guy is made of. Humble as can be, team player, hasn't changed his stride, not hanging his head, super excited before the game, after the game. the right way to be. He's a Utica guy, and shouts out to his parents for raising him right, because that not too many kids could handle that. Not too many kids could go in there and really handle that change, that change for the better of the team. They really did good. The dark side defense came in, and they only gave him 14 points. Coach J-Mac, I know he's a great coach, and they really just played a complete game and really did really kind of what we wanted to do. The crowd was electric. 6 o'clock game, like I said last week. Everyone was pretty seasoned by the time we got into the game, so it was a fun atmosphere. It was like a mini homecoming, so it was good to see them there.
Wisconsin sober is what you're saying. New York
Yeah,
sober.
Wisconsin.
New York sober. Upstate New York sober.
Upstate New York sober. Exactly. So it was really good, and we were having some tailgate talk, right? Like, and I was telling kind of the folks what we're doing here. And just getting a little bit of kind of insight from the rest of the fans. The team looks cohesive, but again, when everything's going good, we all love each other when everything's going good, right? It's when things are going not good where sometimes it can get a little interesting. But I do feel that next week it's a big game. Right. Hobart is the reigning Liberty League champions for a reason. They gave Brockport all they could handle, and we're actually winning that game going into the fourth quarter. And then Brockport goes out and pulls it out, right? So it's interesting to kind of see like who is the real Brockport? Is Brockport that team that we saw in week 1 against Buffalo State and lit it up? They're running ground and pound team, but Hobart defense, it was a defensive game. Hobart gave them everything they could handle, and just lost it in the last minutes of the fourth quarter. So I know that, and a lot of people thought that Hobart needed to win that game, right? It was like a must win. It was seen as a must win. This is a really must win for them, and
right.
we're going to them rematch of the Chapman Bowl from a couple of years ago at Hobart on their field. It's going to be an intense, and I'm sure again the secret is not out about Utica's offense, and it's out already. It's no one's going to be surprised about what Utica is going to throw at them offensively, and I think that defense is going to step up. So it's going to be really interesting for the Pioneers here, and I think they're knocking on the door of the top 25. They're right there. They're getting votes. They're getting a nice amount of votes, and we'll see. But I think everyone is basically really doing, like everyone says, everyone wants to go 1-0, right? And not getting too high, not getting too low, and just kind of dealing week by week. But I'm really excited this year for these guys.
Now, Tony, I got a question. Is there a built-in rivalry there with the Liberty League and the Empire 8? Is there as the two New York conferences, or is there we want to make sure we win the conference, but do we also want to beat, as an Empire 8 school, do we want to beat a Liberty League school?
I don't know. I wouldn't call it necessarily a built-in rivalry, but I'll quote Coach Fagiano, because he said it on another podcast the other day. We don't like anyone, and nobody likes us, right? So he said it. Coach could say it. I think I could just say the same thing. So I think when it comes to anybody that comes in there, especially at home, we don't like anyone, right? Like they comment on how we don't that student group was being vicious, with the chants, throughout the game. So yeah, whether it's Liberty League or anyone else, of course the in-conference rivalries hit a little bit, right? There's no love lost between our fans and Brockport fans and Cortland fans, and it gets pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. But Hobart is Hobart, and when we beat them last year, there was some funny comments made after the game by some folks affiliated with that program, and whether they were directed at us or not, it kind of did feel that way. And at the end of the day, let's play ball. Let's settle it on the football field. So I'm excited.
Well, and folks at home, I can tell you, I am engaged and happily engaged to a New Yorker, and they all feel that way. It's pretty much New York versus everyone, and they appreciate us, but they don't They'll fight you if they have to, just because. Now, the team that everybody seems to be chasing, and we got a hell of an introduction, North Central, in week 1 from David. And David, it's now your time. Tell us, how was week 1 against the WIAC, a conference that comes in undefeated to Naperville, a place that I will be in a couple weeks. Let's talk about it. Oshkosh versus North Central, new quarterback, can North Central rebuild? Did they?
Yeah, so first of all, during your introduction, I got chills. I mean, that's how passionate I am. That's just, me being a fan, geeking out, kind of just who I am. And just to go back to the New York thing, I can appreciate it all. I lived in Albany, just outside of Albany in Troy, New York, upstate, for just over 3 years. And then I lived in Syracuse, or as I like to call it, Sibyracuse. I think we got 190 inches of snow that winter. So I've been in the New York world, living upstate. So totally appreciate all that, Tony. And congratulations, Mr. Chucklehead, for your engagement. I did not know.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
So setting the stage, obviously, coming into the season, North Central, ranked number 1, 24-25 first place votes, D3football.com, coaches poll, unanimous selection, 5 straight Stag Bowl appearances with 3 championships. And you look back, you go back to this 2019 season, think about it. North Central is 71-3. So, that whole dynasty, the kind of the Mount Union standard, North Central still got a long way to go. I mean, Mount Union has set the bar incredibly high, and we have a long way to go. But right now, in this moment, we are setting the standard today. So this program has been elite, and everybody was wondering, Luke Lennon, he's gone, 2-time Gagliardi Trophy winner, holder of several NCAA all division records, what was going to happen. So, North Central, we rolled past them. The score isn't really the full story here, though. I mean, nearly half of Oshkosh rushing yards came in the final drive. Their 2 offensive touchdowns came first after a blocked North Central punt, setting them up at the 1-yard line. And then, other than that, I tell you what, I said last week, North Central's defense was going to be special, and we saw it. So this didn't end up just being a win. It was a statement win, and it was, led by the defense with, 4 All-Americans. You got John Sullivan, Cortez Jones, Ramirian Roby, Braden Garrican, those 4 plus the rest of the team, and as you mentioned, it's against the WIAC, and yeah, they might be preseason middle of the pack ranked in terms of where they're going to finish.
It's some big boys.
Oh, huge. And that's one of the things that was being talked about. Some of the folks around me, some guys that graduated before me. So thankfully I wasn't the oldest, but they were talking about the size, and they are. I mean, when you're talking WIAC, you're gonna play against some big bodies. But when middle of the pack in the WIAC is probably good to be top tier in, I don't know, half of the D3 conferences. If Oshkosh was in any other conference, probably they're going to dominate, at least 30 to 40% of them. And they're probably going to be right there knocking on the door in another 15% or so. It's just kind of the way it is. So wrapping up the D, when you look at it, they gave up a total of 50 net rushing yards. 23 of those yards came during garbage time. So the North Central defense, 27 yards rushing. And then when you look at what they did last week, they had over 130 yards rushing against Linfield. On the passing side, it was 178 yards. 60 of those, again, came in that last drive. So they got the ball on their 13th and then drove down against, the backup. So when you're looking at the statistics of the defense, I mean, the defense was incredible. I mean, just
Right.
absolutely amazing. So that was to be expected. But all questions were on the quarterback, the offense, what was going to happen. And I got to tell you, first couple of series, it was obvious. North Central hadn't played a game. Oshkosh had. It took us a couple of series. You can't simulate game speed in practice. And that showed. It also showed that you had 4 new offensive linemen, new quarterback. Things just weren't clicking. But I tell you what, last year, with a lot more consistency against the opening game against Aurora, I mean, we struggled. We didn't seem to kind of hit our stride throughout that game. This was different. The guys came together. I don't know if there were coaching adjustments, but after that second series, all of a sudden, boom, North Central, I think we scored
45 straight.
We had the ball. Yeah.
45 straight points.
Yeah, it was incredible. So, people went from being like, uh-oh, in the first 10 minutes to being like, okay, this is pretty much what we're used to. So Garrett Wilson, the Oklahoma State transfer, played significant minutes. Mention started off a little shaky, seemed to be hesitant, didn't seem to really be trusting his reads. There were guys that were running open and he was holding the ball and we were sitting there like, throw the ball. But that hesitation went away. He quickly got into a groove and he was dialed in. Short throws down the field didn't matter. It was really impressive. So Demir, our Ferris State transfer, he ran for a touchdown, completed 2 passes, was 2 for 2, but I don't think we really got a sense of what he can bring to the offense yet. But we will. Coach, indicated that, both guys are going to play. There's going to be a 2 quarterback system. So we've got opportunities that are going to be really, really exciting, I think, down the line offensively with both of those guys and using both their skill set. So, and then the other big question mark, we were replacing 4 starters. Our only returner on the offensive line was our center. And those guys, man, I'll tell you what, they became fast friends very quickly and just it all gelled. And it was just incredible. Quite frankly, walking away at the end of the day, I did not expect that big of a victory. I thought it would be a little bit closer. I was comfortable with our program, with our culture that's been built, with the talent that we've brought in, that it would be pretty a pretty good win, but I didn't think it would be that convincing. In the backfield, Sean Allen finished 1 yard short of 100 yards. I talked to his dad after the game, and his dad said, "Oh, he's going to be so frustrated with that." But I'm sure we'll see that next week. A former Cardinal, Will Vernon, former defensive back, had said on X yesterday, he said, North Central's still the standard. And I responded to him and I said, boy, for anyone thinking North Central was all about one player and hoping for a drop-off, they're not going to be sleeping real well. So as we look ahead to Carthage, Carthage doesn't present the same type of challenge that Oshkosh did. No disrespect, but they just don't bring the beef, if you will, and they don't bring the pedigree and that kind of that quality that you get out of the WIAC. So I think we're going to see, North Central offensively going to continue to work on building rhythm with the quarterbacks and the O-line. I think Demir is going to get a lot more time. I expect there to be a pretty big spread. Our defense, I think, is going to clamp down on them pretty heavily. And one other thing I just wanted to add, the staff was all wearing special shirts in honor of legendary coach Al Carius, a longtime coach. He actually started coaching at North Central the year I was born. And the guy, 31 national titles. And he is a reason why there is such an amazing pedigree of coaches and quality of individuals coming out of North Central. He has been a foundation there. So if anybody wants to learn about an incredible man, just go and look up Al Carius, and I think you'll be really, really impressed. But yeah, so walking away from Saturday, great feeling, big expectations moving forward. Wheaton and Wash U will be, the biggest challengers in the conference. At least that's what we expect. It's also pretty good that coming out of the non-conference games, the CCIW was 7-3. That's great. Love to see that. NPI and all of those things. It's important. If you want to play at home in the playoffs. Based on Saturday's performance, I'm already penciling in my Saturdays during the playoff because North Central will be there again.
Tony, David, I want to say thank you very much. The old heads of the group, we'll call you David. Now you have to be patient. We're going to come back to you at the end of the show. We got to get final thoughts, but you got to be patient now as we go to the next segment. Tony, I appreciate you. Don't let Moose Hogan run wild on anybody. You keep him contained, and we'll be right back, Chuckleheads. Welcome back, Chuckleheads. It's now time for Mikey and I to talk about the WIAC and the PAC and the games. A former PAC school that is now a Centennial school played a WIAC school. We're going to wait for that for last. Mikey, I got to bust your balls a little bit, though. Could have gone 10-0 in the Dingo Talk picks. What happened? What happened with that Brockport pick, man? We had 9 picks on the board. I told everybody we had 2 10-0s, and then I had to retract. What happened?
Hand up, missed assignment. I feel like I'm in film again. Coach called me out. That's a missed assignment. That's a blown coverage. Can't happen again.
Well, I will get you this week's picks the same way we have every week. I'm just going to do it publicly once the group on this side. I like this. We have a little bit of a split division. It's the Voices group plus Logan, and then the Dingo Talk, original group that has been picking games. But talk to us a little bit about the WIAC. Obviously, another big week for them. There was a loss there at Wartburg. There was a big play against Kenyon. Platteville, again, a lot of points put up on the board. River Falls did what they were expected to do. And then obviously we'll get to the WIAC versus Centennial matchup in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, exactly. I think this was another successful week for the WIAC. All the teams were in action this week, 6-2 overall. This pushes the WIAC's non-conference record to 13-2 overall. Very good start, including a lot of ranked wins already. River Falls and Co. I want to highlight this game right away because this is like a video game. 59-47. This is 2 good teams. I want viewers to know how good Co is. This was a team that was a playoff team last year. They kicked the butt out of everybody in their conference besides Wartburg. This is a very good Co team. They have a really good quarterback. And these teams just went crazy. River Falls had 733 total yards on offense. Caleb Blaha, All-American quarterback, we know him, right? 335 yards passing, 230 yards rushing, 6 total combined touchdowns. I don't know if you can do this on Madden with Mike Vick. It's crazy. The teams combined for nearly 1,400 yards on the ground. River Falls never punted. They were just literally unstoppable. The only thing that was going to stop them was the end of the clock. The game was close, but not that close. Co kind of would get within a score a couple times, and then River Falls would pull away up 2 or 3 scores. They got close, but they were never really knocking on the door. Overall, good game, kind of what we expected River Falls to do. Mm-hmm. But like I said last week, I still have questions about River Falls' defense. 47 points to Co. I'm not sure what that looks like when you play lacrosse. It gives me some pause there. And then Platteville and Dubuque, another really good matchup. Dubuque is a very good ARC team as well, just across the river from Platteville there. 56-27 win for Platteville. How about this stat? Carlo, I think you'd appreciate this one. In this game, again, Platteville allowed 1 rushing yard. They allowed 1 rushing yard in the first game. So now through 2 games against Aurora and Dubuque, 2 rushing yards. That's a pretty crazy stat right there. That's a lot of handoffs.
Mikey, I'm going to stop you right there. Let me once again reiterate to everybody: we are without our producer, as you saw right there. Some balloons went flying because I put two fingers up in the air. We are doing this through Zoom. We're trying our best. I'm not as tech savvy as Matt, but 2 rushing yards over 2 games.
2 games. It's unbelievable. Yeah, those balloons were for Platteville's defense. I mean, and next week they got Springfield. So, whew, talk about something fun to watch there. I got to imagine they're going to get more than 1 yard.
And I, a Springfield offense that's really, it's one of very few that's still, it's very ground and pound, and then kind of hit you with the occasional pop pass, the post route, the post fade, but not very ground and pound. It'll be interesting to see what Platteville does. That defense now, 2 yards. I got to be the best defense in the country, right? Rushing defense.
You can't get much better than that. It's just outstanding. And speaking of great defense, how about Wartburg and Stout? These were 2 great defenses here. Wartburg, number 10 in the country, going to play Stout. Going to be a good game. Only 1 touchdown between both teams scored here. Wartburg wins 16-0. Just a lot of defense. 135 total yards of offense for Stout. Only 20 rushing yards on the ground for Stout. Stout was 0 for 12 on 3rd and 4th down. They just couldn't move the chains. They have a really good quarterback in Adam Moen. And honestly, I felt bad for the kid. He was just he was running for his life back there. Wartburg has such a good front 4 that they are able to rush 4 all day long and sit back and drop 7. They're mixing cover 2. They're playing a ton of cover 4, keeping everything in front of them and just rallying to the football. And they're letting their front 4 do all the work. Really impressive to watch. Wartburg is one of those defenses that's got to be talked about in that top 10, top 5 nationally. They're that good. If Stout's defense can play like that, I think they'll be in any game in the WIAC this year. I mean, Wartburg's as good as any team. We know how good they are. So it's not necessarily a disappointing loss for Stout, but they probably would have liked to get a win there.
Right.
And then how about Malamar?
Hold on, before we get, I want to ask you about Wartburg, because that was one of the games that you covered.
Yep.
Is this a team that maybe, and as a voter with D3, I have them in my top 10 but I have them just outside of my, North Central, Mount Union, Hopkins, and Susquehanna, which we'll figure out this week because of them playing. Mary Hardin, Baylor, Salisbury, there's a grouping there.
Yes.
Are they a team that maybe I'm ignoring, or the voters are ignoring with what they have as a body of work, not just this year, but in past years?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've been in the Elite 8 2 years in a row now. They were in the semifinals a couple years ago. I think they've just lost so much in graduation, but so has everyone else. But everyone's kind of been like, God, can they really reload? We're used to seeing Mount Union reload, North Central reload. Some of these powers reload. We weren't really sure if Wartburg could do that. Definitely seems like they've done that. Mm-hmm. And even though their Wartburg offense obviously struggled, they only put up 16 points, but they had 44 minutes of time possession. They run this scheme where they are in no hurry. They will use all 40 seconds of that play clock. They're just going to run it, hit you with a slant. Like, they're just slow and incomposed. So I wouldn't expect them to put up 53 points and really shock a voter that way. They're okay beating a team that they're much better than 24-0. That's the kind of type of game they play. So I think if you're box score watching, they don't wow you. But when you turn on the tape with Wartburg, I mean, I would not want to play this team in the playoffs. This is definitely a top 10 capable team to me. I think I have them at number 11, and it's no fault to their own. It's just how good the upper echelon is right now.
Right. Now talk to us about your alma mater. They got a big W to go 2-0.
Yeah, they traveled across the country and to Ohio to play Kenyon, 35-6. The touchdown they gave up was on a blocked field goal return, so a defensive shutout. So now through 2 games, they've allowed just 7 points on defense. Impressive 2-0 start, and this is what we talk about with a program that wants to to build, try to get up that next echelon of the WIAC is you want to see stuff like shutting out defense. They outgained Kenyon 415 to 119. It was just every stat in the book was dominating. And the quarterback, again, sophomore quarterback making his first starts this year, 20 for 26 with 217 yards and 3 touchdowns, just really efficient. And that's exactly how he was against Carroll. So it's a really bright sign for Eau Claire. But also at the bottom tier of the WIAC is Stevens Point, and they are looking also great early in this year. I think this is what makes the WIAC so special, is how deep it is. And we can forget about these teams at the bottom, but Stevens Point beat St. Norbert 41-17. St. Norbert is a perennial 8-2, 9-1, 7-3 type team in their own conference. And this was just a slow, grinded out game. They dominated on the rush ground. They rushed for 175 yards on the ground. But they were similar to Wartburg. They're in no hurry. They just want to take their time. They're the utter opposite of what River Falls is doing. And it worked out well for them. They played really sound football. So you look at a team like Stevens Point and what they could add to the league. It's just another feather in the cap of the WIAC of having 1 through 8 really, really solid competition. And then I'm sure Josh will cover it later in today's show, but Whitewater 37 rip over St. Xavier, just doing what they do. The highlight in this one to me was a 52-yard field goal by kicker Seth Adams.
Right.
You don't see distances like that very often in D3. That's an NFL level kick. That's big time. But they did what Whitewater does, 4 for 4 in the red zone, 39 minutes of time possession, outgained St. Xavier by 3 times, only allowed 100 yards of total offense. That's Whitewater football 101. And it seems like they might have their quarterback's situation figured out. I'll let Josh touch on that, but they got a good one, it seems like. And then we were going to hear again about what happened in North Central and Naperville. Again, I don't think we saw anything too shocking. North Central is going to do what they're going to do.
Right.
I think a couple teams in the WIAC that could give them a game, but they're not named Oshkosh. That would be Platteville and La Crosse. I think Oshkosh is a team that's going to be fighting for 4th, 5th, maybe 3rd in the WIAC. I'm not sure that they're there to really give North Central too much of a tussle. But as far as North Central goes, they're able to see a team with size that they might not see the rest of in the CCIW. I mean, Oshkosh is going to come with big dudes, physical.
Right.
I mean, they're going to pop pads that they will not see until the playoffs. So that's an awesome, way to iron sharpens iron there for North Central, and they'll be better off for scheduling that opponent. So yeah, that's the rundown. 6-2. I was pretty happy with how the WIAC performed this week, and good competition there.
So I also got to finally see what WIAC big was, and that'll be the kind of the end of my rundown. But before, I have to give credit to Dylan Kramer, my stat guy that's watching the PAC for me, because these next couple weeks we're kind of traveling around. I'm going to give a quick rundown. The PAC went to a 9 this week. A fast start for Dickinson really kind of doomed Waynesburg, 52-19. Worcester gets out on St. Vincent, 28-14. Interesting, St. Vincent with new coach Casey Goff. They're a team to watch that might finish in the middle, that was maybe not as productive last year as everybody kind of expected. My alma mater, Bethany, really, really took another tough step back against Kalamazoo, 50-7. Mount Union and Grove City was really the big matchup of the weekend. Talking to Coach Dart, Grove City played a hell of a ball game. It's just, Mount Union's going to Mount Union, and they did that this week. But Coach Dart had nothing but praise talking about the Grove City program and what Coach DiDonato is doing up there. Westminster got the nice bounce back win this week with a 27-7 win over Franklin. Wabash and Case Western was another one that I was interested to see. Case Western coming off the tie, what they were going to do. They lose to Wabash. Now Westminster, Case Western. If Westminster can get past Coach Deblajak and Case Western and get into the bye week, get a little bit healthier. There are a lot of people around this neck of the woods that think Westminster could run the table. It could be an 8-0 PAC run or a 7-1 PAC run, and we're talking about them, Grove City. The big stat is, for the first time in a long time, 1997. I don't want to date you there, Mikey, but does that predate you a little bit there? No, not
that
fully.
Predates me. That predates me by a couple of years.
So we're talking about a guy in Mike Sirianni and W&J as a program that the last time they went 3-0, they lost 2 non-conference games and then lost to Grove City. This week, they are coming into the game 0-2. Grove City is what I think a lot of people feel is the team to beat in the PAC. W&J could go 0-3, first time in Sirianni's career.
Wow.
And then what do you do in the PAC? Because you still have Case Western in there. You still have St. Vincent, Geneva, some of these other schools that a 3-loss W&J team becomes a bowl game berth for some of these PA school teams.
Yep.
I believe. Now, all of that being said, the other big one, Geneva losing by 1 to Shenandoah. I mean, we're still looking for Coach DeMarco's first win in the final campaign, but a 28-29 or 29-28 loss to Shenandoah. Shenandoah is no slouch. So for them to for Geneva to even be in that game, given that that's a opponent that they don't see all the time, and an offensive style they don't see all the time. I mean, I gotta love this program, but the big one, and it's where I was this weekend, didn't really get to watch the games. And again, thank you to Dylan Kramer. Every stat that I threw out there, that was thankful to him for taking the time to put that together for me. Carnegie Mellon and lacrosse. Let's talk about a little bit on the, as a guy that's never seen a WIAC school play in person. Big bodies up front, big bodies on both sides, D-line and offensive line. I was a little surprised the skill guys weren't as big as I expected them to be. Still big, still fast, still very physical. The secondary had I believe his number was 37. He first play of the game, come downhill and made contact that echoed through Lackner Stadium. The first half, Carnegie Mellon and lacrosse kind of feeling each other out. Lacrosse really never seemed to be out of control. Carnegie Mellon did everything right on the offensive line. Like we kind of got a great angle in the second half where we were right behind Carnegie Mellon's offensive line. We watched them open holes, and it was just a matter of lacrosse having bigger bodies. It's nothing that Carnegie Mellon did wrong. Now, there were some things. Carnegie Mellon did not get off the field on third down. The third quarter was similar to last week for W&J, where the third quarter really determined the game. The third quarter got away from Carnegie Mellon after they had really regained kind of the momentum ending the second half. I don't think that Carnegie Mellon's going to see, again, like you said, it's a great thing for North Central to see Oshkosh early because that's a big team, big bodies, big physical. Maybe the most physical. The only other one I think we're all looking at is that Wheaton game to see but I don't know that Wheaton stacks up physically in the size metrics compared to the WIAC schools. I think that's the same thing for Carnegie Mellon. I think it's a good football team. And when I talked to Coach Janis after the game, that was the first things out of his mouth. I mean, we shook hands and he looks at me, he goes, those are 2 really good football teams. Just really proud of the way, and they played at all 3 facets. I mean, punter, kicker, both of them. Wow. I mean, just changed field position, on kickoffs, on punts. It was just it was interesting to see the way that Carnegie Mellon handled things. And again, minus you take that third quarter away or a couple of plays in that third quarter, and we're talking about a 27-21 game, 24-21 game. You know, Grove City had two plays taken away, or Carnegie Mellon had 2 plays. I don't know why I keep saying Grove City. I got that Grove City W&J game in my brain, but Carnegie Mellon had 2 plays, one of which was a touchdown called back on an illegal man downfield. The other was a 45, 50-yard ball that puts them on the 5-yard line in the first half. Again, an illegal man downfield. These were the things Coach Larson said to me after the game, which were penalties, turnovers, got to make tackles. That was a big thing. There was a lot of missed tackles early, and got to get off the field on third down. Yep. And those were the 4 things that La Crosse did really well. Now, I will say this for my partner that was with me at the game, DB. He made the comment a couple times. He felt like that La Crosse was playing with their food a little too much, so to speak. They were very powerful in the run game, but then went away from it and started with a pass-heavy slants and outs and kind of could have run away with it in the first half. I mean, they had opportunities. And I think you and I talked about it, not so much on camera, but off camera, of that's, if you keep Carnegie Mellon around, it's going to become a problem. Like they're not a team you want to keep. You want to put them down and play ahead. Fortunately for Matt Janis and UW La Crosse, they had a good trip to Pittsburgh. They got to practice at Duquesne, which Coach Janis said was very cool because, you know, if for anybody that's been in Pittsburgh, you're right on top of on the other side of the mountain. You're looking down at the Monongahela River. You're looking at the skyline. So great opportunity for them. They come away with the win. They're a team. They're a team that the 3 right now for the WIAC, and you correct me because you're my WIAC guy. The 3 that I'm looking at are Whitewater, River Falls, and Platteville, but La Crosse and Whitewater are right there. Like, I think that those are there, and not one of them are a 1 for me. It's all 1A, 1A, 1A. Like you know, they're interchangeable. I'm excited to see. We're obviously a week away from WIAC play. So what are we looking for going into this week, minus the Whitewater game? Obviously, Cooper and Josh covered that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's several good matchups. That's a big one. But, you know, La Crosse plays a Division II team, which I think is always really interesting. Wayne State out of Detroit there. This is a team they played a couple years back, and they beat them in Wayne State. And now Wayne State gets to come to La Crosse and play again. Such is always really interesting. This game does nothing for them as far as MPI. But if you can beat a Division II team, it's a huge feather in your cap as far as a very impressive win.
Right.
How about Stevens Point in Pacific? That's out in Oregon, so it's going to be a long trip for them. I think that's a really fascinating matchup. Pacific is a team that's been in the top half of their conference for quite a while now, and Stevens Point in the bottom half of the WIAC. I think it's a two very comparable teams. That could be the closest game of the weekend. It wouldn't shock me at all. Other than that, Eau Claire plays Martin Luther, which is a UMAC school out of Minnesota. They're expected to win that. I think that should be a game where they come in and hopefully put them away early. River Falls at Belhaven. A lot of cross-country trips in the WIAC this year. River Falls and Belhaven. That's going to be a really good one. That could be, a ton of points. River Falls is probably big favorites in that, too. I'd probably guess they would probably win by 3 scores if I had to put something on that. And then Springfield at Platteville. Just a fantastic game. Strength on strength, triple option versus maybe the nation's best run defense that we've seen yet. So that's probably going to be the one that I would want to watch the most, because I just want to see how that matchup's going to go. I mean, how cool is that? So yeah, it's going to be a really good week. And you know, the WIAC as a whole, you mentioned how you just saw La Crosse and how they're right there. You know, I've been on La Crosse this whole year from the preseason, and you saw their quarterback, Kyle Haas. I think he's the perfect quarterback for their system. He's just perfect for their system. What he
Tall.
does, tall, he
Boy.
makes smart decisions, and he can run when he has to. He can scramble when he has to, but he can sit in the pocket. He can be accurate. He can make his reads. He's a Division II transfer there, and he was really highly recruited out of Minnesota. Good player. So if I'm placing bets, if I was a betting man, I think this is lacrosse's conference to lose this year. I think they're that good, and they're that deep. Good receivers, physical up front on both sides of the ball. You saw it live. So we'll see. A lot of times in the WIAC, it can just be, hey, of those top 4 teams that we listed, who's the healthiest in November? Who's the healthiest?
Right.
So a couple injuries here and there, and you're talking about it's Whitewater or it's Platteville. You know, who's going to be healthy?
Well, Mikey, stick around. We're going to come right back so that we can get our final thoughts in the games that we're watching this week. But we'll be right back, guys. Welcome back, everybody. Let's get our final thoughts out of the way. This is Voices in the Stands. David from North Central, talk to us a little bit. Give us our final thoughts to start us off today.
Yeah, I think, with what's been talked about, I think at this point, looking ahead to next week is really where I'm at. It could be called Separation Saturday this early for Division III football. You got John Hopkins going out to Susquehanna, number 3 versus number 4. That is going to tell us a lot. Has Susquehanna's games thus far been really that challenging? It's always hard to tell this early in the season. But matching up against Johns Hopkins, yeah, that's a solid opponent. So we're going to learn some things there. Would be absolutely derelict in my duties if I don't mention Whitewater and Mary Hardin Baylor. I think Mary Hardin Baylor is underranked. I think the talent that they have, we've talked about this before within this group. I anticipate Mary Hardin Baylor to win this one, but boy, I'll tell you what, you never count out Whitewater. And in this kind of a clash, it's going to be an incredibly exciting game. That's going to tell us a lot. Not really much to lose for Whitewater. I mean, if they lose that game, they could actually climb in the rankings based on how well they play. So we'll see how that plays out. You got Barry going to Carnegie Mellon. Another good one. That's going to be a matchup of 2 conferences to kind of tell us a little bit about the strength of those conferences. Trinity heading out to Pacific Lutheran, heading out to the Northwest, a little bit of a trip. So we'll see if Trinity's going to continue on that upward trend that I think that we're seeing so far this year. You got some other big games. You got Springfield and Platteville. That's going to be interesting. River Falls at Bellhaven and Hope hosting Mount Joseph. There's some interesting conclusions that we can take away there before we get into a lot of the in-conference games. North Central, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my team, but it's going to be a tune-up Saturday for them, I think, against Carthage, and kind of working out the kinks a little bit and continuing to grow. But yeah, so those are my final thoughts. Is really looking ahead to next week.
Coop, what do we got?
Yeah, nice, really nice final thoughts there. Some of which I kind of had written down myself. Man, that Johns Hopkins Susquehanna game is massive. Absolutely just crazy big game. I haven't looked to see what time that one's kicking off, but I'm for sure going to be tuning in if I'm not watching, actually at the UMHB Whitewater game, which I will be at that one. We talked about that one earlier, feeling like that's actually feels more like a top 5 game than what it is on paper. It's 16 versus 6 on paper, but Whitewater looks legit from what I can tell, and I think we're a little underranked, like Dave also said. So yeah, I don't know. I think really this early in the year, looking at like the top 5, 6, 7-ish maybe teams, I feel like there is a bigger gap forming, and we're seeing it right now because of the transfer portal than ever before. I've tried to watch as many Division III games as I can so far. Watched Oshkosh against North Central, watched Oshkosh and Linfield, watched Hardin Simmons against McMurray. I'm seeing teams that are like typically like fringe contenders that are like, oh, they're a step away. If you play them on the road in the playoffs, they're going to beat you. top 8, 9, 10 type teams that could float up into the top 5. I'm seeing those teams look less like themselves. And I think it's not just guys from D1 and D2 coming down to D3. It's the best players in Division 3 transferring within the division to other top Division 3 programs. So I think we're fully seeing now the effect of the transfer portal in our division. We're seeing a better product at the very top. Mary Hardin, Baylor, North Central, Mount Union, Johns Hopkins, even Susquehanna. I'm really high on Hope this year. They've used the portal as well, and have done a really good job. So those programs are like fantastic. I think they're getting better than they've ever been, but then we're seeing a little bit of a gap. And so I think as a whole, take it as you will. I don't know if it's great for the division, but I think we're getting to a point to where the top of Division 3 is a lot closer to really good D2 or FCS ball right now.
Josh?
I mean, obviously, Whitewater and Mary Hardin Baylor, as Coop kind of mentioned, and when he and I were talking, I did mention that I would love to see Whitewater come out with a victory. I'd love to see him put up a fight. Most of all, I'd like to see him come out of there with no big injuries heading into the bye week and then the conference schedule that kicks off with lacrosse in a couple of weeks. So I would like everybody fully healthy by then. Would I love for him to win? Absolutely. But if you don't, it's not the end of the world, right? You got to win the conference to get the surefire bid, but that would be a big box checked if you beat UMHB down there. As far as some of the other games, we're just going to be scoreboard watching as we kind of do and updating things. I love that Stevens Point is going out to the Pacific Northwest to take on Pacific in Oregon, and Stevens Point is a surprising 2-0. And
right.
That's great for their program. That's phenomenal. Lacrosse is playing a Division II team at home. They're playing Wayne State. Eau Claire's 2-0. They're playing Martin Luther. They're coming in from Minnesota. That's not too terribly far. And River Falls is going all the way down to Jackson, Mississippi for Belhaven. And Caleb Blaha has put up ridiculous numbers in the first couple of weeks. So just going to keep an eye on that one. The other ones are kind of underwhelming. Oshkosh still takes a step up with Roosevelt. Stout's playing Northwestern, and Platteville and Springfield. Going to be keeping an eye on all those. But obviously, we're going to enjoy our trip to Belton, Texas, and hopefully come back healthy, and then heal up for the week, and then start the WIAC gauntlet.
Mikey, you'll have to excuse Josh. He's really excited about the fact that he's getting a real nice Texas breakfast and barbecue for breakfast. And then halftime, he's getting a barbecue for lunch. So I know he stole some of your thunder on on the rest of the WIAC there. So just hold on a second. Let's see what Moose Hogan Tony has to tell us. And then we'll get to you. Tony, talk to us. What's your final thoughts?
Well, a lot of folks probably thought Utica coming, this is going to be our last non-conference game. And a lot of people had us maybe 1-2 at best. A lot of people even were saying, hey, Utica's going to come out of this non-conference schedule 0-3. And understandably so, right? We came off a 5-5 year. It was a down year, and we have lots of changes. But they've proven to be something special this year. I'm excited to see can this offense drop another 40 points on another defense, on another reigning conference champions, which is Hobart, who needs this game. They're at home. They need this win. And it would really springboard them a little bit to get that win at home against Utica. The E8 is tough this year. It's a lot of parity in the conference. And I like the fact that that Utica scheduled some tough games, playing W&J, out of the gate. Was commendable to them, and now it's going to be really about going in there and handling conference business. But first, we got to take care of Hobart, and I would love to come back on here and say that the Utica University Football Pioneers knocked off 2 separate reigning conference champions. Moose would love that. Love that.
And Josh, I would be remiss if I didn't point out from Moose Hogan's segment earlier in the episode, we found out that there is an upstate New York sober as well. So we now have Wisconsin sober and upstate New York sober. I'm going to learn this week what Vermont sober is, and what on October 10th, apparently I'm going to learn what Naperville sober is. Mikey, talk to us about what your final thoughts are going into week 2, week 3. It depends on if you counted week 0, if you called it week 1. Week 3, we'll call it for everybody out there. What are your final thoughts?
5 under the radar games to watch that I wrote down. Brockport at RPI, Concordia Moorhead at St. Olaf. They play for an awesome trophy, one of the best traveling trophies in all of college football. Check that one out. Monmouth at Lake Forest. Lewis and Clark at Pomona Pitzer. I know there's a little bird tripping around that someone has Lewis and Clark in their top 25 rankings, because they're receiving some points at the end of that poll. So check that one out. That should be a good one. And then Calvin at Heidelberg. 5 under the radar games. Get to a game near you this week. Tons of action.
And as the final wrap up of my final thoughts, I have a couple questions. One, Utica, and is it their Empire 8 to lose? From what I saw this week from UW La Crosse and Carnegie Mellon, I thought UW La Crosse looked very big. Carnegie Mellon did a lot of right things. They just ran into guys that were bigger bodies than them. I don't think they see that type of size again the rest of the season, maybe against Johns Hopkins. Hopkins, Susquehanna, 3-4 matchup. I flipped them from, Susquehanna was 3, Johns Hopkins was 4 for me going into the preseason poll. Since week 1, I have flipped them. I have Johns Hopkins 3, Susquehanna 4. I will say that I also saw a little birdie voted for Lewis and Clark in the top 25 there. I believe that same person voted for Utica in the top 25 as well. And also, just really enjoying the community. I think D1 Rejects is doing a great job. I think Pat Coleman and what they're doing at D3football.com is, the standard of the standard. And really appreciate you guys stopping by and enjoying us now. This is our 4th episode. Apologize that Matt wasn't here and that we didn't have all the bells and whistles that we normally have, but I think everybody adapted. We did the D3 thing where we adapted, not as much as maybe Josh did this weekend in his coverage space. But again, Josh, breakfast and lunch taken care of, so you're good.
Nope.
Hobart and Utica is the game I think that people should be watching. Johns Hopkins and Susquehanna is another one. And David, I would say that you are correct. This is a tune-up game for North Central. Coop, I think you made a great point there that, the gap. There seems to be 7 teams right now that we've seen on tape that are wow, and 8 through 25, maybe 8 through 35 or 40, you're looking at them going, good football teams. I don't know that they can compete with those 7 that people are putting consistently at the top. We'll be back next week, Chuckleheads. So thank you again. Thank you guys, and have a great weekend.
See ya.